Hello YouTube, what's going on? Give a warm welcome to a man who has amassed 350,000 subscribers, over 131 million views on YouTube, and a guy who wants to keep the family jewels shaved. Welcome FivePoints Vids. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No, 100%. And you're one of those YouTubers that I think a lot of my audience is going to know, and a big help to my channel. And, you make, like we were talking about, the obscure content that sometimes there's not an audience for, and it makes it look possible for guys like me. So thank you for really helping out with all of the YouTube process for people trying to go in. You don't do the typical content, and it really helps for people like me. So a big thank you for that as well.
You're welcome. I'm always looking for that sports fan that wants to dive a little deeper into sports and not look at it just from a score and highlight point of view. Like I'm always looking for interest stories that are just a little deeper than that.
No, and I love that. And that's a kind of hidden gem on sports YouTube that some big guys will make a video once a year that's really out there, but then place like SB Nation, that's what most of their brand is built on. So you see it work in different ways, and you're definitely killing it with it. But I want to know, about 9 years ago, that's when your first YouTube videos posted, but how did you get your YouTube start? Everyone has a really cool story on it, so I want to hear yours.
Yeah, it's a funny story because I was a healthcare executive before, and I had this really, cushy job, and I was very high up the corporate ladder, and then one day they said, "You're fired." So it's funny, when you're employed by someone, you can lose your job at a whim, and that's what happened. And I was sitting around, I was depressed, and I had an Xbox, and I was playing Madden. And then one day I was like, how do you stop screenplays? And I just Googled it, and I saw that people were making video content on YouTube for Madden, and this whole world opened up to me. And I was like, wait a minute, all you need is like a capture card and a mic, and you can just do this. And so I went out and I bought a capture card. I bought it off Craigslist from some 13-year-old kid, and I started making videos. And it's rough at first, and when you start in the gaming world, it seems so easy to do it because I can just talk, and I think I'm funny, and all I need is this background. And then you realize how hard it is to be really entertaining. And I just kind of languished along for 4 years, I think, just doing Madden videos. And then I got sick of Madden. I started hating Madden because it just sucked as a game. And then I started doing NHL videos. And then one day I was like, you know what? I don't really like doing this anymore. I wonder if I just wrote a script and actually did what I'm good at, which is writing and trying to be funny. And I put together this video about NHL captains, and it got 40 times more video views than I was used to. And that's when, on YouTube, once you discover what works and you can repeat it, that's where the lights come on. And that was, again, I sucked for 4 years, and that was 5 years ago now. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And I started thinking of more interesting content. I started expanding my content into all sports. I started really studying YouTube and how it works. And then that's where we are today. It's been a long journey to get here, but that's kind of how it started. I got fired from my job, and I was bored and depressed, and here we are 9 years later.
No, and it's really funny. I feel like everyone that kind of makes it doesn't have a plan going in. They just have an abrupt start. Like, out of nowhere, I had so many failed YouTube channels with 10 subscribers, and I was like, I'm going to start one, just make one called What If Kawhi Leonard Sided with the Clippers while it was the Kawhi Watch. Then it happened, so like a week later, so the 2K video got views. I started gaming too, and a lot of my channel knows I stopped gaming because the same thing. I couldn't play another down of Madden. The game would crash before I'd finish, and it'd be like a 40-40 game, be perfect, and then it's just so much and then also next gen and all that, and keeping up with that. It's a lot, but you said how you study YouTube, and I feel like that's another thing that makes or breaks creators. But when you first started out, maybe a little bit past the just playing Madden for fun, what were the like honest expectations of the future of your channel and your brand?
It's so important to kind of have none when you go into it and really love making content. I thought maybe, you know, I get 1,000 to 5,000 subs, like that'd be great. Because the one thing I did recognize with social media is that if you just put in time, like eventually you'll grow. It might not be rapid, but I just wanted to have fun. And back then when I started, it was way easier to monetize. So, you know, you get like 2-3 cents a video. You could actually see the growth. Even though you had to get $100. Well, it's still that way. You had to get $100 in revenue a month, and that seemed just impossible to me when the first year. I was like, $100 a month. That would just be insane. And but I really had no expectations because I just loved making content. I loved having an outlet for whatever thoughts that I had, or even just, you know, I did love Madden at one point, but I think really you just have to have no expectations going in and love making content. And then as things evolve, you can start putting together, I mean, you want to have incremental goals. I mean, YouTube's like a video game where level 1 is like, you know, 100 subs. Level 2 is like a boss fight for 1,000 subs, and then, you know, 10,000, 100,000, etc. But yeah, you just make content because you love it, and you can tell who's on there to make content because they like it, and you can tell who starts out and is just making forced or trying to be something that they're not, and it's pretty easy to identify that as well.
No, and I've interviewed a lot of people from people on my channel. No, I won't name the brand, but there's one brand I've interviewed 2 people that left the company, and it's one of the most forced channels out there for sports. So I see the same thing, and I can tell in my videos sometimes I'm like, I just want to upload a video this week, and sometimes I'm like, I'm really like proud of this video and I wanted to make it. And it's a weird thing for me too, because I started off just gaming after a bunch of failed channels. The first week I was like, yeah, I'll probably make videos for a week, and then I relocated a Madden team. I think it was Madden 19 at the time, Madden 20, and for some reason I got 5,000 views because it was like the day the game dropped, and I got like 50 subs that day. And it's just, I feel like if that didn't happen, I probably still wouldn't be doing it, but I'm very happy it happened. And I feel like YouTube's a big luck game, and not many people, especially starting out almost a decade ago, really knew what the end goal, or still don't know what the end goal is, and they didn't expect it to be a income for them type of thing.
No, I did not expect that, but what really, I think the year 2017 really took off for me, where I started getting 1 million, 2 million views a month, where I was just like, holy crap, like, this is different now. And that's when you can change your expectation to thinking, well, maybe I can make a career out of this. And yeah, it just worked out. But it's all a confluence of many things going right for you. Yeah, it's a luck game, but it's also skill. There's a lot of science or accidental skill, I think. I sort of read what a lot of other people were doing, especially with thumbnail simplicity and things like that I think talented people do just on accident. And then as you get more into the trade and you start learning what the tricks are, it becomes more of a science over time. And that's where I'm at now. It's kind of like being a baseball player or a basketball player that's tall and really good, but has never worked on their jump shot. It just kind of goes in, and then the coach gets with them and it's like, hey, you can change these things mechanically. And then, 2-3 years from now, you see that they're throwing mid-90s, or they're hitting every jump shot, and you're like, wow, the potential is there, but it takes a lot of practice to get to that stage.
I really like what you brought up with the thumbnails, because a lot of people think you're going for the flashiest thumbnail and they'll spend $10 buying off somebody, or they'll take like 2 hours out of their time, make it look all pretty. But then you see some of the most viewed videos, especially in sports spaces, is just a picture of Luka Doncic, or it'll be a picture of Michael Jordan with a red circle and like a few words over it, and it works, and it's perfect. And I love that about sports YouTube, especially. And even all sides of YouTube, you see anything by most channels, it's a simple thumbnail that are big. And then you see the smaller channels really go for that fancy look.
Yeah, I think what the thing with thumbnails is if you can tell the story without any words, then you've won. Like, you don't really need to put a lot of words or make it fancy. The thing is with those thumbnails that you think are really simple, yeah, like a picture of Michael Jordan with just an arrow and a circle, those take a long time to actually put together. I spend a lot of time on thumbnails. I like to conceptualize them before I even start the video so that I know what it's going to look like. And because a lot of times you'll design the video around the thumbnail knowing that something's going to be very appealing to click on. And there's no accidents, especially at the top level of YouTube or the established level of YouTube. I think I see a lot of channels that maybe do it really well at the smaller levels, and they're just waiting to blow up is the thing. And it takes time. It takes building an audience, and just looking at YouTube scientifically, because it's not about algorithms or luck necessarily. It's about when someone sees your video, when someone sees your thumbnail, are they going to click on it? And then when they click on it, are they going to watch your video the whole way through? That's really important because YouTube responds to that type of behavior. It wants you to, like, this is one thing that I think people misunderstand is YouTube wants you to succeed. They want you to put out good content. They want you to put out good thumbnails because you're taking up their data and resources. They don't want crap on the platform that's not being watched. So if you can do what you can to optimize and be as good as you can possibly be, YouTube wants you on the platform.
Yeah, and I like what you said about the thumbnails, because I've made thumbnails where it's taken me more than a day. I'll also, because I was in high school when I started my channel, I'll be in a photo editing class, and I would get I got detention one time for my teacher could see what we were doing on the computers from her computer, and I didn't know. So for 2 straight classes, I was making a thumbnail, and she was so confused and so angry and upset. But then you will see sometimes with some YouTubers, and I'm guilty of it too, just because they have a lot of viewers, it will just be a plain picture of Luka Doncic. And for some reason, I'm still find myself clicking on it every single time.
But it's the art of selecting that picture.
100%.
You want someone to have that emotion in the picture to fit what the title is. Yeah, there's some people that are lazy and get away with it. But really with mine, I like to enhance and pop and do things with the picture. The pictures that I use are highly manipulated. They are used in a non-accidental way.
Oh yeah.
And luckily for me, I was a graphic designer coming out of college, so I have that background, which a lot of people just don't have. They're either really bad at thumbnails, they just don't have the talent, or they get by with it. But I'm lucky in that regard, because YouTube is really just an example of you have to wear a lot of hats, and you got to be really good at a lot of things, and not many people are suited that way, especially in the beginning when you don't have resources to hire people, or you're a lot of times you're just on your own. No one wants to help you, no one cares, and unless someone's a partner with you, and that doesn't make any sense because you're gonna have to split all the revenue. You're like, all right, now we only made $10. I gotta split it with somebody else.
Yeah,
it's really hard to make up for your deficiencies by finding someone that's good at it and creating a team, because once the pie gets split so many ways, it kind of doesn't make sense. So I see a lot of YouTubers that have succeeded by being a jack of all trades and doing all of the little things on their own.
No, yeah, and I've seen a lot of YouTubers do the opposite, where they are splitting it, and they'll have a lot of success, but you don't see them living like the typical, big YouTuber on the platform that flexes their cars and their nice house, they're still just in their room with the same backdrop that they started with 5 years ago. And I kind of love that, and I love the grind, and I love, your thumbnails really do stand out. Like, there's the why don't these states have major sports, and it's the sign, and on the bottom it just says, we have no sports teams. Like, I love that. Or
I don't know why that one's working so well, because that is one actually where I put it, like, I had a thumbnail concept. Originally, it was going to be the state of Virginia and then other states, like, popping out of that. And it was going to say 8.6 million people, 0 sports teams. And it just wasn't working. Like, a lot of times there's a lot of experimenting, and you're like, okay, is this going to work? Because sometimes the concept doesn't look good on screen. And then I was like, wait a minute. I got up, I stepped away from it, then I saw a Welcome to Virginia sign that's actually in the video, and I was like, wait a minute, what if I just take the sign and manipulate it that way and make it look like it's part of the sign? And it actually turned out, it worked really well. That video is actually doing much better than I expected. And so there are processes in YouTube where you just kind of accidentally find things that work, and that's one of them for sure.
No, and I like a lot of your content where you go into stadiums, or your most recent one, the 28-3 leads, which that video is insane. But there's videos that you made that are like a shot in the dark, for example, that always feel sentimental and they're important. So, like, what video do you think has meant the most to you after it was uploaded? What was, like, maybe not your highest, like, maybe not a triggering NFL fan bases, but, like, one that you really took seriously and you thought was, like, your most sentimental video?
What's funny is it's also, like, one of the most viewed videos. It is the 28-3 from the Falcons' perspective, just because, well, that one and the Oakland one about the sad Coliseum video. But 28-3 from the Falcons' perspective, because Will Keyes, who's the writer that wrote that, we worked really well together. Like, I laid out the outline, and then he just put together a fantastic script. And then I just was like, I need to tell this story in the most crisp and just documentary style that I possibly can. So I took much longer on that video than any other video. Like, it took like 2 weeks of production, which normally a lot of times I can produce a video in 2-3 days. That one took about 2 weeks, and it just worked, and I'm really proud of it, because it just tells a story that needed to be told. And anytime you can get emotional just watching your own video, like, that it's going to be a good video. That other people are going to feel this too, even though you know what's going to happen in the video, and it still gets you emotional every time. That's why I'm really proud of that one, because it just resonates with a lot of people too. No,
and I've only seen it done really one other time. SB Nation did one, and there was a Falcons fan talking, and for some reason, and it was very funny because they didn't show his face. They made it like a blacked out mystery man, and it was funny. But, like, I'm a New England Patriots fan. My family, I have a lot of family from Maine. My dad was born in Maine. Diehard Patriots fan. So seeing, like, my favorite day in sports as some people's, like, worst day of their lives illustrated in a way. And it could have been a 5-10 minute video by other people, but the fact that it's almost 30 minutes makes it, like, it's like watching a short film. It's not legally a short film, but it's like watching a short film, and you really feel invested in it. And it makes you, like, because I hate Atlanta sports, and I've said it. I've been mocked on Twitter for my hatred of Atlanta sports, but it really makes you feel bad and sympathize with the team that entire week going into it as a fan, you're worried about, and you're like, I just want to beat. And I remember I was in middle school when that happened, and I was worried. I was like, Julio Jones might destroy us. And even with the Eagles Super Bowl the next year, I was terrified. And my dad, diehard Patriots fan, was like, it's a backup quarterback. It's never going to happen. Nick Foles upsets the like being a Patriots fan is something a lot of people, like, aren't proud of, because we get labeled bandwagon and stuff like that. But it's one of the craziest rides in sports, because you can't really write sports history without the Patriots. And you can say that about every team, but like the Russell Wilson interception at the goal line, the 28-3, the biggest comeback, and the first overtime Super Bowl. Like, there's so much history in that, and I love seeing the other fans' perspectives because there's 32 teams. You're not going to hear like a Carolina Panthers fan too often. So seeing an Atlanta fan, and because, they're an expansion team, not recently, but they haven't been in the league the longest. Them and the Saints are two markets I love hitting on because they came in the same year, a rivalry that really kind of came in from not much. It didn't make full sense, just that they were both expansion teams, but it's one of my favorite rivalries there. And I love seeing, just like, as much as I make fun of Atlanta on Twitter and the entire world makes fun of Atlanta in general, they have a really cool history, and seeing that in a documentary style from any YouTuber, but especially you, because it is usually a 10-minute video where I'm like, damn, this guy really just called out the Patriots like that, or anything like that. It's a total 180, and I love that you have so much flexibility in that.
Yeah, and it's fun to tell a story that just does resonate with people. You don't have to be a Falcons fan. You don't have to be a Patriots fan to know that the Falcons just epically choked. And I really wanted to take a deep dive into how they did it and just discovering what really happened from both a tactical and philosophical standpoint really just resonated with me and luckily with a lot of other people.
No, yeah, and I feel like because I did watch the 28-3 lead video, because in the NFL, the only other one is really the Bills and Oilers. But in college, especially, like, you see stuff like that happen. And in high school, even more, you'll see, like, the craziest comebacks that don't make sense. But that Patriots one on the biggest stage of them all, probably one of the most watched Super Bowls in the last 10 years, just because everyone heard, oh, it's going to overtime, and turned it back on. Because after the third quarter, that game looked like it was over. But it was really cool to see you kind of paint it in that way, in a way that there's a lot of potential for videos like that. Like, if you talk about, one of my first video ideas ever was Vince Carter had that insane dunk in the Olympics, and I can't remember the player's name now, but he has had death threats. He now owns a convenience store in his home country. There's a picture and an article written about him, and just he's sad standing at the counter of his convenience store. Like, there's so many stories that you see it from the winning side, and seeing it from the other side, it really helps, and it makes a beautiful story. And the Netflix show Losers is one of my favorites. Yeah. And it didn't do too well because I don't know why. I mean, they were talking about.
What's funny is, like, I don't want to watch that show because it's just I don't know. I don't want to watch The Losers, which is funny because the 28-3 is like my favorite video, but I'm not into it. Like I guess I could watch it, but I probably get more video ideas out of it.
The only good one, there's one about a boxer and how his dad used to abuse him as a kid and turned him into a boxer. Besides that, they start talking about like shuffleboarding and like or curling, and I can't pause it. Like, it's a cool story. Death threats from countries, Olympics. Any Olympic sport is a big deal. But no chance you can get me invested in a 45-minute curling video.
Yeah.
But, you really like to mix comedy into your videos. And we see other YouTubers do it as well. And you're friends with Urinating Tree. Like, we see it happen a lot. So where did you... Because, you all kind of popped up around the same time and all are very successful now. Where'd you get the first idea? Were you just always witty, or is it like you have to write it into your scripts? Like, where'd you get the comedy into the sports? And it mixes very well. Where did that really start for you on your channel?
I guess what happened was I saw this YouTuber that was doing he was doing NHL content, and he was doing it really well. And I never had thought that you could do a script on a video, and it just never occurred to me that, wow, I could really think this through and make it actually cohesive. And he actually stopped making videos, and he was doing really well. But he said the one thing that resonated with me is, think of if the entire world is watching your video right now. Would you want to show it to them? And I was like, oh my gosh. And I went back and I looked at all my videos and I was like, wow, these are really bad. Like, I would not want to show this to the entire world. Like, then that really made me think about YouTube as a platform, because that's what you're doing. When you upload, you're offering your content to the world. And if you show it to someone and they're like, I didn't like it, then you're just like, oh, okay. And it's not their fault for not liking your video. It's you didn't put together anything interesting. And so when he said that, I was like, oh. And so from there, I was like, well, what am I good at? Well, I'm a decent writer. I like telling jokes. So I just wrote, again, like I said, I wrote a script, and I started seeing people like Tree, but I discovered Tree like after I had kind of gone out down that path. But it really came down to, can I find something that works? And back then, you know, the top fives were really working. Like I was like, all right, I can write a top 5 list out, because like Watch Mojo was really big back then. You know, these kind of things just come kind of organically to you. It's like, all right, well, I can do this. Like it's an intersection of all these different things happening. And I don't know if there was anybody really else that I saw, but then I just kind of realized that I can put my voice to memes and scripts, and sometimes a little highlighted clip, and it ended up working out. So that's kind of where I ended up. That was the inspiration, was a bunch of other things, but I knew that I wasn't going to be good at gaming. Like I was like, I got to get away from gaming somehow, and it took a while to change that up, for sure.
No, and it was a weird transition for me as well, because I got probably 700 of my like 900 subs from me gaming, and then one day I was like, I want to take this more serious, and I switched up. And for like the first couple months, it really, like, I thought the channel was dying, and now I've kind of built an audience back up, and I'm happy about that. But shock value is a thing that you don't see a lot of sports YouTubers go for. And, you know, triggering 32 fan bases isn't easy, but especially because you have to also trigger your own. But what's like the best reaction? Because when you're going for shock value, you kind of want people to get upset to a point. What's your best reaction from one of your triggering all fan bases videos?
What's always interesting with that is, I mean, obviously people are going to get butt hurt because you're trying to rile them up. The funniest reaction to me is when people are like, more, like, make it worse, like, hurt me more, like, you didn't bring up X, and this, like this, and this, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, people really want you. Like, they're coming there for you to just destroy them, and it's always shocking that people want you to even go below the level that you've already stooped, and that to me is hilarious, that people would react that way. You know, a lot of people, they get upset, and I just brush it off, because I'm like, oh, mission accomplished. Like,
yeah.
It literally says, I'm trying to trigger you. But the people that are want more insults, like, those are the MVPs. I always try to show appreciation for them, because I'm like, man, you're a masochist. Like, you really are into getting destroyed.
No, and I've noticed in the last couple of years, you'll see more. They're all PC, but you'll see more offensive jokes in videos. Like Tree, for example, and I hate to like dive off of you, but like Tree, he'll make a video that's like, and then this team killed them in LA, no offense, OJ Simpson. Like, you'll see stuff like that all the time, and it really, like, I'll be driving, listening to a video, and whenever I hear that, literally, like, I blink a few times, I'm like, whoa, and it works. And I feel like shock value and comedy in sports is something that wasn't a thing before YouTube, really. Like, you saw it, I guess, like, professional wrestling, maybe, but besides that, everything was very serious. The commentators were pretty much just play-by-play. Now you see commentators like Tony Romo coming in, and he'll throw in jokes here and there. See the Manning cast, like, and it's funny to bring up, like, the Patriots-Bears game, like, Obama was there for a quarter. And you'll see him, and he just has to make fun of the Patriots the whole time. Like, a past president of the United States making fun of the Patriots because he's from Chicago. You love seeing it. So I feel like YouTube really kind of brought that in, and because you didn't see it before that. Again, everything was very serious, but now you have brands like Barstool or Red Cup news that really go for that side of sports that wasn't seen before pre-YouTube and social media, really.
Yeah, I think that was the thing about the platform of YouTube, is that we could say what we want. We could still say what we want. We're not handcuffed by a major media outlet. We don't have to kiss anyone's ass. We don't really care what the NFL thinks of us. I mean, it's getting harder to ignore, like, for the leagues to ignore us now, but it really is an open platform where you're not that authenticity really matters, where you're a fan and you can say what you want and you can crack the joke that you want. What's funny is a lot of times teams have actually gotten offended by things that Tree has said, and he just doesn't care. He keeps doing his thing, and I think that's how I want to be as well, is just continue to tell the joke that I want to tell and not even care about what happens. You see guys like Sports Talk Barry, who's becoming a successful YouTube channel. Like, he does not care, like, he'll tell the joke because it matters. Or guys like Brandon Perna has been around for a long time. Like, it really does it really does resonate with the fans, that awesome authenticity where you can tell what you're really thinking instead of having to sugarcoat or whitewash things for the media or the league.
And you see a lot of, like you said, teams get upset, but you also see a lot of opportunities have been growing from things like this. Like, the Golden State Warriors G League team has always kind of been that one G League team that really wants to get in the news. Like, they'll have a 84-year-old guy try out, or Jesser, for example, just tried out in a video. But I want to know, because you critique a lot of stadiums and you talk about the worst stadiums, the weirdest stadiums. Have any of these stadiums or teams reached out to you to, like, go there and see the stadiums or anything like that?
No, I mean, that's up to you. Like, they're usually receptive if you ask. But no, I think no one's gonna invite me to come out. It's kind of difficult they're just doing their thing. The Orioles, when I did the Camden Yards video, they did comment on the video.
That's awesome.
I told them that they suck. Yeah, I was like, one of the reasons nobody hits it because the Orioles suck. They just really haven't had a left-hand batter, and they commented on it. And I think someday I will reach out to the Orioles that do, like, try to do something, but it's all on you. Like, if you're the YouTuber, you want to be the one that pushes that and does the stadium tours. There's a guy on TikTok that just goes to stadiums. That's like his job, and you kind of have to make it that way. Now, a lot of the teams and the stadiums are receptive to that. Like, they're like, oh, okay. If you just tell them what your credentials are, they're fine, and they want exposure too. Like, it's free for them if you do a story on them. It's getting to the place where you have a big enough following where they will pay attention, or if you're even luckier, they've actually heard of you. But even still, for me, like, not many people know who I am, even at 350,000 subs.
And yeah, I understand that, and it is weird because you do talk about stadiums all across the world that no one's ever heard about. One time you talked about a Jersey place that I had actually known. I could never remember the field now, but I had been there, and I want to, like, because I'm sure you just do a lot of research and you can do it from your living room, but what's the weirdest stadium you've actually been to in person?
I mean, the Metrodome was super weird because it was indoors and it just felt very sterile, and it's still cool. Anytime you go to a big league stadium, it's like, it's fun. But the one baseball field that I played on, there was a bridge. It was underneath a bridge, and the pylon for the bridge was smack dab in left field. And so there was this huge concrete pillar in left field, and we were taking infield practice in there, and we were taking BP and just hitting it off the bridge, and it was just hilarious. This was in Panama, and I was like, is this real? Like, are we really taking practice on a field that has a bridge basically going over it? And but yeah, the weirdest big league one was definitely the Metrodome, for sure. It was like, why is this a ballpark? it was cool in there, but you look up at the ceiling, you're like, there's no way I could catch a ball off of that background. A white ball against the white ceiling. I was like, this place has to go. It was bad. And so they did replace it with, US Bank and Target Field, and those stadiums are both amazing, but yeah, the Metrodome was rough.
No, and I love another video I really liked was like designs that didn't happen. And there's one I found on Reddit a while ago that there wasn't enough research. I couldn't make a video or anything on it. But the Steelers want to make one over a river or something along those lines. Like, there's some crazy ones that I've seen that I wish came to fruition because those pictures would be insane. But what would be, like, the weirdest place you could think of to put a stadium or something, put a stadium over, or any kind of area that you'd put a stadium if you had $1 trillion?
Well, there's one that they said that they're going to make it on the moon, but I was like, there's just no way. Like, this is stupid. Like, it was just like this crackhead idea. I think maybe like a floating stadium that's so large that it could be moved from place to place, which is, I mean, it's completely possible. I think that would be cool. I'd also think like a football game on an aircraft carrier would be pretty awesome. And the one thing I did actually a video on that where I conceptualized this weird stadiums. I think an MMA fight on an airplane would also be really cool. Like maybe like a smaller cage, but them just having an actual fight. I think one time they did that with wrestling, but it was, it's wrestling, it's not like, I think it would just be cool to have a cage fight on an airplane.
You make like awesome. The girls that come out with the round cards. They're just the stewardesses.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
No, and I like that. But kind of to wrap up, I asked this question in all of my YouTube interviews, and it's a weird one, especially because I've only interviewed so many YouTubers. It's mostly just athletes, but it's a tough one, and I like asking it because I don't even know how to answer it. But when all's said and done, 1,000 years from now, when eventually, all of us die, I'm not gonna say any time sooner than that. But when it's all said and done, somebody stand over your grave. What do you want to really be remembered for by everyone?
I hope that I made people laugh, and I hope that I helped brighten their day or help them think or just entertain them and help them learn about things that maybe they just wouldn't care to learn about, or stories that help change their perspective on things. But most of all, I hope I made people laugh and have a good time, because to me that's what content is about. I want to make people smile and say, all right, that was worth my time. Like, I enjoyed watching that video, and hopefully that's the legacy that I leave behind, is like, okay, this guy always tried to make it funny and make it entertaining for everyone involved. And sometimes that comes at the cost of other people's feelings, but I don't really care. Like, if your team blows a huge lead, like, yeah, I don't, and again, like, I don't go after athletes. I don't go after specific fans. Like, I try to keep it to just the team, and in preventable situations. But yeah, I hope I'm that guy that made people laugh. That's all I really.
And I really like the different range of answers I get from this, because there's some athletes who are just like, oh, I really want to change the community and be bigger than basketball. And I'm like, the odds of anyone being bigger than basketball is pretty low. But I really like how you answered that. And every answer always shocks me. I always expect something, and I get the complete opposite. And I like that, like, mindset of just, you want to make people laugh. And you do. And I think that will for sure be your legacy. And you're doing a great job now. And thank you so much for letting me interview you. If somehow this is your first time, if I'm the reason you're finding out about 5-Point Vids, first of all, that's my biggest accomplishment so far. And all of his links will be in the description. You can follow my new brand, Benchwarmer Banter. Again, thank you for coming on. If there's anything you want to say to end it, you're more than welcome to.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. Yeah, check out my channel if you can. And hopefully I can just keep growing and putting out good content that's entertaining and funny for you. And I appreciate you coming on.
And thank you again. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Have a good weekend. Peace out.